Hello, welcome to another video of oorail. In this video, we're going to show you how to create a curved platform from scratch. So this is basically the method I use for scratch building a platform. This particular version is a little bit trickier because it is on a curve, and here we're actually creating what's called an island platform. So the platform itself is in the middle between two tracks, and there's a track on either side is basically serviced by the platform. Sometimes you have these in the middle of stations, and then you might have other platforms on either side. Access to these platforms is usually by footbridge, by a barrow crossing, or via a subway. So in this case we're going to be using a barrow crossing, and I'll show you how to create one of those in an upcoming video. So this is a pretty straightforward process. It is a little time consuming, it is a bit tricky to do, but the result is brilliant. So if you want something a little bit different and a little bit more realistic than the typical Tri Hornby plastic platform, and this is the way to go. The result is definitely a lot better than using the cardboard printable platforms. I experimented with those, and this method is a lot better. If you've seen our wall video on how to make a low country wall, we're going to be using a very similar method. We are once again using our ice lolly, or as we call them here in the States, popsicle sticks. You're going to need a little bit more of them than normal, and there's a couple of different ways you can construct this. So depending on which method you use, you'll either use more or less of them. You're going to also need a fair amount of wood glue, or PVA glue, and you're also going to need some polyfiller or a joint compound, and that's basically all you'll need. You'll need some kind of metal tool for spreading out and smoothing the joint compound, and then once you've got it installed, you basically need to just paint it once you've done all the testing. Now, this is a curved platform, so it's a little trickier because you have to take into account the height and the curvature of various different rolling stock. So it's going to take a lot of trial and error. What you see here is actually the glued platform in place. I spent about an hour making sure that I had the dimensions correct. So the way to do this is to take a set of popsicle sticks, basically your bottom layer, and put the outline of the platform where you think it should be. And then you need to take your longest coach rolling stock and freight rolling stock that you have, and test it out to make sure that you have all the clearances. You want to make sure that the platform isn't going to hit any of the rolling stock, especially when it comes around a curve. So, for example, if I take this Inter-City coach, this is a Mach 3 short Inter-City coach. You want to make sure, you can see here, right here on the band, you want to make sure it doesn't hit the underframe. And then again, you can see, you want to make sure it doesn't hit any of the parts of the platform. So what I did was actually took a popsicle stick, put it on the corner of the coach like this, and then went along like so. Now, one thing you can do if you want to actually mark this is, instead of using the popsicle stick, you can just use the pencil and then do it at both ends. So I usually do it one end, other end, and in the center. And that way you can check the clearances. Then once you've got your point marked out, now I used, well, this is a Mach 3 coach. I actually used the Mach 4 coaches that I had, as well as the extra long your Hornby and Lima Mark 3 coaches. I also used a class 158, which is a little bit longer, just to make sure that I didn't have any problems in the future. And then I moved it back about 1 to 2 millimeters from that point. Now don't worry if the platform doesn't quite overhang the track correctly. We're actually doing the base walls, so you want it to be a couple of millimeters narrower than you'd expect it to be. So if you have a lot of these, you're going to have to build with quite a few popsicle sticks. So I actually got a craft box, I'll show you here, that contains 1,000 wood popsicle sticks, and you can get those from most online craft stores or your local craft shop. So it's a cheaper way than trying to buy them on a per 100 basis from the pound shop or dollar store. So what you do basically is you put down a layer of popsicle sticks to lay out the platform, and I'll show you in a second what I did. And once you have it laid out, and like I said, you have it marked off and you have it tested, you take your wood glue and you run the wood glue fairly liberally along the underneath of the popsicle stick. You kind of want it to smudge and overflow because you want it to create a bit of a seal. And create a bit of a seal, so you want to make sure that it smudges over just a little bit. And basically you pick up each popsicle stick in turn, glue them down, put it back down, pick up the next one, glue it down, and so on until you've glued the entire bottom layer. And remember, you're not filling it in, you're just doing the outline walls. And then you basically do a second layer of popsicle sticks, and then again using the glue pretty liberally. Then at that point you have a decision to make. It's about 6 or 7 popsicle sticks high that you'll need to go. Or you can cheat and basically do what I did here and turn the popsicle sticks on their sides, and then you just have to use one more per section. So that's what I did, and it produces a height that's pretty close to what you want to get. And if I move the logo in here a little bit, you can probably see it does come pretty close to the door. When we add the polyfiller or joint compound into this mess, it should come up to pretty close to where the platform would actually be. Remember in the 80s and so on, when you stepped off the train, there was usually a bit of a step anyway, probably about half a foot or so. So it's not a big deal if there's a bit of a gap. So then the next part of the video is I'm going to let this dry. It's been drying for a couple hours. I'm going to let it dry a little bit more so it strengthens. And then in the morning what I'm going to do is fill this with polyfiller. So I'm actually going to fill it from this end all the way down to the other end. Now there's one thing that I need to mention is I'll show you kind of a close-up here in a second, but down this far end where the platform slopes down, I didn't put any additional popsicle sticks. So you have the 2 base layer ones, but there's no upright one. The reason for this is the ends of the platform actually slope downwards, and you're going to create this slope with the polyfiller. So you're going to fill it up to here and then slope down. So that's a pretty important thing to realize, that if you don't let that slope down, or you put that in there, your platform's not going to look right. So the next step is basically going to be to fill this with polyfiller. Before I do though, this particular station I'm going to also scratch build some lights. So by the time you guys see this video, a couple of days are probably going to have elapsed. And what I'm going to do in the next step is actually drill the holes and run the wiring for the lighting on the station. So I'm going to have to figure out where I want the lighting, where it's going to be the most prototypical, and then I'm going to have to run the wiring for that. I'm also going to run the wiring for any of the lighting that's going to go into any buildings or anything that I put here. So it's very important before you pour the polyfiller in to make sure you figure out what kind of lighting that you want in here, because once you run the polyfiller, it's not going to be very easy to install lighting or run wiring. You're not going to probably want to run the wiring along the base here, you're going to want to pick individual points along the platform and drill holes through the baseboard and run the wiring independently. The type of scratch build lighting that I'm building is basically the standard prototypical lights that you would see, the kind of T-shaped lights that you had in the 80s. So here you can see on the slope end there's no additional popsicle sticks, there's just the two, and you can see we just got a uniform shape around here. Pretty much follows the track, and it's sloped down the end again. You can see there that one of the pieces of the popsicle stick was actually falling over a little bit. I think that was because I got put too much wood glue on it. So I just put those two broken pieces of popsicle sticks up to prop it up. And you can see there island platform in there. And you can see that's where the barrow crossing is going to go. So next I'm going to do the wiring and the scratch built lighting. Alright, so you've seen there from just in the video that we've cut and filed down some poles. You have a total of 4 here. They're basically the same length, and now these are a little bit longer than they would be normally, because we're going to stick them into the baseboard like so. So the piece that's sticking up above will be prototypically the correct height and so on for the larger part of the pole. And then, as you can see here, the tube is hollow, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting the smaller pole into this along with the plastic piece on the top that holds the light fixture. Now what we're going to do is, if you look at the base of these, they're actually exactly the right size for a 3mm LED. So we're going to drill a hole in the baseboard that is not quite the diameter of the LED base. We're going to put the pole in, and then we're going to put the LED in from underneath the baseboard. So the LED will basically be kind of slightly raised out of here, and we'll fix it in place underneath the baseboard. And the reason for this is that the light will shine up through this, up through the to the other pole and into the plastic light fixture. And then if for some reason we need to change the LED or increase the intensity, or you know, it's a burnt out bulb, it's not stuck inside the cement platform. We can actually pull it out and fix it and then stick it back in. So the idea with this is to make sure that all of these LEDs are serviceable. And the LEDs I'm going to try initially are these just standard white 3mm LEDs, and I got a pack of 25 of them from Adifruit, and it should work pretty well, I think. So in case you're not quite sure what we're trying to achieve here, I'm basically, aside from having this station building here in the center of the island platform, we're going to go and have these kind of standard 70s, 80s Bior style T-shaped lamps at probably 4 of them on this particular station, and they'll illuminate the top and the front end of the platform, and they'll also provide us with a place to hang the station name sign and so on. So what I'm going to do next is basically drill the holes for this, and then put the LED and the pole in place, and then what we should have is a series of 4 of those in place, and then I'm going to figure out how many positions here I need for wiring and so on for the actual building itself, and I'll run the wiring and stick it out of the platform as well. And then basically what we'll do next after that is go ahead and fill it with polyfiller, and then we'll let that sit for about 48 hours. And then once it's sat, we'll sand it down, paint it, finish off the lamps, and put the station building in place, and it should be good to go. Okay, so what we've done is we've marked off a couple of different locations in the baseboard where we're going to run these lamps. I decided, based on the station, I'm going to just put one lamp at either end of the station and then some internal lighting in the center. So what I'm going to do is take the power drill with a drill bit that's a little bit smaller than the LED base, and we're going to drill straight through the baseboard with this. And so we're just going to go ahead and do this. And since the baseboard's up in the air, I'm going to support it a little bit with my hand. Okay, so you can see there, we've put a hole in the baseboard. Now, obviously this hole isn't big enough for the LED to pop through, so what I'm going to do is on the underneath of the baseboard, I'm going to use a much larger drill bit to put a small hole so that the LED will fit up through there. Now remember, the LED is not very big, and you just want to leave a big enough hole for the LED to fit. So probably just like 2 or 3 millimeters from the end of the tip here. Okay, so once you've got the base and almost the whole LED head goes in there, maybe not quite as the full amount, and then what you want to do is take the drill and drill just a small way into this. And hopefully it is big enough for this, not quite. Okay, that's what you are looking for. So basically what you want is enough space on the underneath to put the LED through the bottom, and then enough here for the pipe to go in on the top. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot, it just has to be enough for the pipe to go through, and it just has to sit in there. We'll glue it in place. So with this measured in place, what you want to do is just take the electrical tape like so to make a mark the spot where you want to put it, and then usually you just have to put it in on the other side. That's enough to break a hole in the electrical tape like so. And so what you want to do is, with that hole in the electrical tape, push the electrical tape down around the base to hold it in place like so. And then what we're going to do is just take a second piece of electrical tape and wrap it around the bottom there just to firm that up a little bit. Now you don't have to worry too much about how straight this is, because once you put the polyfiller in, you'll be able to straighten this up before the polyfiller sets, and you should be good to go. So I'm going to do the same thing down the other end of the platform and run the wire in the center for the buildings, for the interior building lighting, and then we'll get on with the polyfiller. Okay, so here we have the finished product. You can see here we have the pipe end sticking up through. Now this doesn't go straight through the board, it's just resting in a small notch, and we've used a paper clip just to keep that in line with the hole. If this gets out of whack with the hole, we're in big trouble. Mainly because we want the LED light to shine up through this pole, so if it gets knocked out of alignment, it won't be as bright. Then if we pan down here you can see in the center I've drilled a larger hole straight through, big enough for one of these pipes to go through. And basically the aluminum tubing or pipe is providing a conduit for this wire. So later on this is actually going to a length of wire underneath, and I can adjust it accordingly. And the reason we're doing this is so that once we put the platform in with the polyfiller, that the lights are still maintainable. And finally, if I pan down here to the end, you can see here at the end I've done the same thing. Okay, so for this next part we're going to do some polyfiller. Basically you're going to need a flat edge thing here, one of these tools for applying the polyfiller or joint compound. Later on you'll also need a metal one. That's to help smooth things out. And it's pretty straightforward, so just give the compound a bit of a mix. Now this is stuff lasts for a pretty long time. This is the same stuff we were using a while back. And you just basically spread it like so. Now this is going to look terrible probably for at least first couple minutes, and then it'll start to take shape. You don't really need to worry about smoothing it too much, you just want to make sure you're not wasting the polyfiller either. And you want to avoid any kind of big air bubbles in it. Like so. Now this shouldn't take too long, probably about half an hour or so for a platform of this size. You just want to make sure. Now I've actually covered up the equipment and rolling stock with a large sheet that's underneath this, just in case any of the polyfiller drips through. And as long as you're careful with it, you shouldn't have to cover up the track. Alright, so I'm going to keep going with this, and we'll show you the end result towards the end of the video. Alright, so here you can see we have all the polyfiller installed, and so what we're going to do next is take the larger spackling thing here and just even things out just a little. Okay, and then finally, what we're going to do is for the larger sections, we're going to use this piece that's larger than the platform itself, and just gently run that over the top. Okay, so we've completed the polyfiller section of this. It's not entirely smooth, but it's good enough. We'll let it dry. It will most likely crack in a few places, so we'll see if we need to apply some additional polyfiller, or if we'll use card, or we'll just paint it. We'll have to see how it looks. But so far so good. It's looking pretty nice, and we'll do a quick pan around so that you can check it out. You can see there, it's looking pretty nice. So we're just gonna go and let this set. Probably good 48 hours, and we'll get back to it. See here, it's not too bad on the curve. We'll sand that down, make it a little smoother, and hopefully it'll look pretty good when we're done. And here you can see one of the problems we had with the platform drawing. As you can see, it got slightly cracked. So what we're going to do now is just go back over that with some additional polyfiller to clean that up and make it look nice, and hopefully this time when it dries out it won't stretch and crack as much as it did this time. And here you can see we've done another layer of the polyfiller to eliminate all the cracks. So hopefully this one won't expand as much since it was completely full of polyfiller. You can see there's some marks there. It's a result of the kind of texture of the surface underneath, but I'm not too worried about it. We can smooth that out with some sandpaper later on and then paint over, and what's left will actually make it kind of look a bit more realistic, like concrete. So we're going to let this sit for another day or two, and hopefully we'll be able to move on to the painting. So this is after the extra coat, and we're going to smooth this out with some sandpaper next. There are a few cracks. There's one there and one there, but we think sanding those down, or we might patch them if we have to. And then here you can see where we already started to sand the surface down. So I'm going to continue sanding this down, and then next we'll start to paint it. Just to show you how to use sandpaper, we're just going to take a small piece of it like this, and then just basically run it in circles to get most of the, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to get the uneven parts out. The most important part is the edge here. You want to make sure you get this edge as smooth as possible. And then if you've got cracks or anything like that, you can use the sandpaper to smoothen it out. Now what the sandpaper will do is it'll create a bit of a residue, so you have two options. You can vacuum it up, or you can do what I do here and actually just use the residue to brush it into certain areas that might not have filled in all the cracks. Now this here, I'm not too worried about it because there's actually a building going to go on top of it. And what I'm doing is I'm just sweeping this off to the sides a little bit so that I can just blend it into the ballast, and I don't have to worry about kind of cleaning that up. And it also helps kind of fill in the cracks around the base between the so like bigger pieces you can discard, but the dust itself you can then brush it in like so, and it'll fill in the cracks between the baseboard and the actual platform itself. And this is going to take a while to get absolutely perfect. I wouldn't worry about too much getting it pristine, completely flat, because most platforms aren't. They're going to be weathered, and there's going to be cracks in the concrete and so on. And a lot of it you can hide with paint, so if there's just a few small cracks, you should be able to hide it with some paint or some scenery or something like that. What we'll do here is just keep brushing off the dust onto either side. Don't worry about getting it on the track, you can clean that later. And this is just polyfiller, it's not any kind of hard setting plaster, so it's not going to stick to the track and not come off. You just don't want to brush it too hard. If you have, like I have here, some locomotives next to the track I'm working on, and you can see here you're going to get quite a bit of dust. And if you work it back and forth like this, you'll get a sort of the effect that you want into the plaster to make it look like the polyfiller, to make it look like some stained concrete and so on, or distressed concrete. So I'm going to finish this up, and then we'll get to work on the paint. This has been completely sanded lightly. You can see there on the surface there's some not so smooth parts, but like I said, we'll resolve that with the paint. There's a slight powder residue over the top of this. I've left that there on purpose. So the next step is going to be to paint this. So here you can see we have it almost completely painted. We'll finish up the painting this evening. You see here, it's got that surface that we're looking for that looks like concrete, but also looks like aged concrete. Kind of look, you can see there it's got some cracks on it, some marks. And we'll use different colored paints to make that look more realistic. Okay, so we're just going to show you how we do the painting here on the end of the platform. It's basically the same as what we do with the rest of the platform, but I thought I'd demonstrate it. It's pretty straightforward. So we're starting there in the middle, and just pushing from side to side. Now this entire platform isn't quite 4 feet long. It's probably like 3.5 feet long, maybe. So it's quite a large platform. Goes from one end almost to the other end of the 4 foot long baseboard here, and it used about 1.5 containers of polyfiller, and we're on our use about so far 1.5 tins of gray paint. These are the smaller quarter fluid ounce things of paint, so it's not too bad. I think by the time it's all done, we'll have used probably a grand total of maybe 2.5 of these in gray, and probably just a small amount of white to do markings on the edge. And then we're going to mix the gray and the white, maybe some black, to create imperfections in the concrete. Now one thing you might notice here, I'm not sure you can see it in the camera, but we actually left a small layer of dust on the platform, and the reason for that is that if you brush away all the dust quite heavily in detail, you end up leaving a less than smooth surface on the platform. So if you let the dust settle for a few days, it kind of almost adheres back, and then if you brush in the paint here real lightly, the paint will actually seal in a kind of a more smooth looking surface. So down the ends of the platform here, we expect there's less traffic, so the ends of the platform would look a little smoother. Now you will notice that the edges here aren't perfect like you'd see on a regular platform. They're a little rough, and what we'll do is we'll use a combination of sandpaper as well as ballasting and other techniques to make that look correct when we're finishing this up. But for now, It doesn't really matter, we can fix things later on. So you can see here at the end of the you can see here at the end of the platform, it's not quite smooth, but we can smooth that out with some ballast and some paint. So we'll actually put just a little bit of paint on the baseboard to make it look like it's give the effect of it being all flat. And once you've done down the side here, you can start working on the edges. And again, kind of want to just use the paint to smooth out the look of it. Alright, so we'll keep painting this and get that wrapped up, and then we'll put in the lights in the building, and this will be all ready to go. Okay, so here you can see we have the platform surface pretty much done. It is slightly uneven in places, as you can see. It kind of dips up and down, but the main platform building is actually going to sit on top of this, and we have the wiring here as well for the interior lights for the building. So from about here back to about here, the actual platform building is going to sit. So the actual surface of this isn't that big of a deal. One thing that you will notice is that the surface is a little darker than it probably should be. This is just a matter of, we just use the dark, the kind of regular gray flat paint. So if you do have this problem, or you want to lighten it up a little bit, it's actually a very simple trick to this. So what you can do is just take, after you've messed with the polyfiller, you're going to have offshoots of it all over the place. So if you take a piece of sandpaper like this, and then a small fragment of the polyfiller debris that's been laying around, or after you've sanded it, there'll be lots of powder. So if you've swept that up or just set it aside, you can pick some of it up and sprinkle it over. But basically what you want to do is just create a sort of fine dust from the pieces here. Okay, like so. You don't need a whole lot of it. And what you do is once you've got that on there, especially if there's shiny spots, just take your hand and smooth it in, and like so. And what this will actually do is it will actually stain the surface a bit. So you can just brush it back and forth a bit, but it'll actually stain the surface just slightly enough to take away that kind of shiny, plasticky kind of look from the surface. So what we're going to do next is, you can remember we put paper clips in these to maintain the holes and so on. So what we're actually going to do is pull those out of both ends, since the holes are pretty much done at this point, and this is all set. So the next step is going to be to, like I said, take the powder and just weather over down the whole surface to make it kind of a more of a lighter gray color. And then what we're going to do is paint the white lines on either side of the platform. Now if you're modeling more modern era, I'm modeling the 70s, 80s kind of era, so there's just kind of a white line down the side. But the newer kind of layout is kind of a yellow line with some white lines, so you need to check up on that and make sure what you're using is prototypical for what you want. But for what we're doing, just a simple white line down the two outsides will work pretty well. And once that's done, I'm going to go build the lights for down here. And the lights, typically the type of style of light we're going to build, should be about 70 millimeters in height. And if you're using any kind of OLE, those platform lights are usually slightly below the OLE mast, so you can use that as a guide as well. but about 70 millimeters is what we're looking for from the base of the platform to the top of the light. So here you can see the results of the weathering. It kind of creates a more realistic looking surface. As you can see there, the surface is slightly stained, and that's where I just installed some new powder, so I'm going to brush out the cracks a little bit so that it doesn't look so white. You'll also notice on the side here, I didn't paint this thoroughly. The reason for this is if you look at some of the sides of platforms, you'll see that there's some imperfections in different colors coming through the side of the concrete. So to get the same kind of effect, you just don't quite paint all of it. I paint most of it, but leave some of it there. And then you can see down this end where it's still a dark grey color. I haven't weathered that yet, so I'm going to go weather that now with the bits of poly filler that have dried up the left around, and hopefully it'll look a bit more like this, and then we'll get to painting the white line on it. So you can see there, it has a more weathered look to it all the way down the platform. So next we're going to paint the white line onto it. So painting the white line is pretty simple. I'll just give you a quick example here. You just take some white paint, start about an inch or two ahead of where you stopped, brush it like so, get some more paint. You just want to use small amounts, another inch or so ahead. Brush it black into place. Some more paint. About an inch or so ahead of yourself. And so on. And basically you do this the whole way of the platform. Now it's not going to be perfect. I did try some of this with an applicator, and the applicator actually made it worse. So it's better just to get a regular cheap paintbrush. You're not going to get a perfect line. If you want to make it perfect, you could use some tape. But if you look at some of the pictures, especially from the 80s and so on, you'll have stuff like this where the paint is slightly, been missprayed or spilt or whatnot. And so once this is done and dried, we'll put some weathering powders over the top of it, kind of dull it out a little bit more. So it doesn't look like it's freshly painted, and that'll kind of complete the effect. So I'm going to finish up painting this, but I just wanted you guys to see the technique to apply the paint and so on. And it will run, it won't be perfect, but you can clean that up later with some quick weathering powders. So here you can see the final product. You can see it's got not quite straight all the way down, but it's pretty straight. And we'll clean up some of the rough edges with some weathering powders and perhaps some lighter paint and so on when we weather up the platform some more when everything's installed. But it gives you the overall look and feel, and some places you can see where the paint isn't quite evenly applied, so it does look like someone may have missed a bit or not had the pressure on the paint thing as much as they should have. So it looks like quite a lot of photos that I've seen. So we'll go in and clean up the edges when it dries. But all in all, it looks pretty good, especially at eye level from the layout. So next up, we're gonna cut the piece of metal for the lampposts, and then let it all dry, and then we'll go and finish up with the building. And here you can see I decided to paint the base of the lamps black. They seem to vary from station to station. Some are silver, some are grey, some are yellow, some are completely red. Most of them are black though, so I went for painting the base black. And if I just pan down here, you can see I did the same thing on the other end. And you can see the white lines do need a little bit of weathering there to cover up some of the overflow from the paint, but it's not that bad. And so there you have the platform. So next step is going to be to install the next part of the lights, and then we'll get on to showing you how to make the frame for the lights, and then applying the power and adding the building, and we should be good to go. Now next, you're going to take the snips, and you can see here I've marked off the 7 centimeters on the or 70 millimeters on the thing here. So you're just going to take the snips, and this is aluminum, so it won't take much to do it. And what this will do is it will actually create a nice flat edge that will go into the light fixture, but because you're running the light up through the base of it, you're going to want to open it up just slightly. So you can see now we actually have got the contoured shape that we want, and then what we're going to do is basically put that in there like so. Now we take the ruler, and we want this to be around 70 or so, or 65 or so millimeters, so it's about 24 or so here. It doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. So you can see we've got this opened up, and what we're going to do is take the paper clip and shove it up through the baseboard here. So what I'm doing here is just making sure that the pathway for the LED is clear. The LED won't fit through here, but we want to make sure that there's no plaster or anything polyfiller stuck in there, so we just move that up and down so you know it's clear to free to go. Then what you're going to do is take this like so. You want to make sure that you don't separate it from the platform. You want to get the try to get the height right, like so. And then when you're happy with the height, I'm going to take a small piece of tape, and then tape the underside of the paper clip in place, like so. So now you can see it's relatively straight, so it looks good. Now the next thing we're going to do is use some kind of upmarket glue to basically glue that into place. And we want to make sure though that when we glue this in place, we don't send the glue down too far inside there, otherwise the LED will not shine up through and we'll have to do some surgery on it. But let's go ahead and put the glue on next. So we're using this zap stuff. You've got to be very careful with it. But basically, we're going to go just drip some of it down in there like so. Okay, so what I've done is I've dripped some of that, and the actual back of this is touching up against the inner piece. So what we want to do is just try to make sure that's at the right height. Each of those. And then you should be good to go. There will be a little gap around the outside here, and you can fill that in with some paint, and you'll be good to go. So I'm going to go duplicate this on the other end, and let them both glue and dry for a while, and then we'll come back and wrap it up. So one trick you can do is to use the pencil to mark off exactly where the light needs to end up. So I'm going to put this about here. So take the pencil and just mark off a good spot. You can see there, it's balanced pretty well. So we'll take glue in one hand, carefully pop the top off, and then just a couple of dabs of the glue. We want to find our mark. And hold it in place for just a minute. There, you see it doesn't take much. Then just want to hold the tab underneath in place for a few minutes so nothing else leaks. Put the lid back on the glue, and that's it. So it's the second one in place. So you can see there in place we have the two lampposts, and now we just have to work on the head for the lamppost. And in case you're wondering, the hole there and there, there's another one right there, those will be used with the LED basically underneath here to shine up through there, and we get some high intensity LEDs. You'll lose some light through here, but eventually you'll get the desired effect, hopefully. Now these are a little too shiny, so we'll paint those grey as well once everything's dried up and in good shape. But so far so good.
Okay, so here we have the finished scale scenes medium station. There are a few things we still have to do. Still have to secure it to the platform, and we have to create the chimney stacks. But all in all, it's been pretty much done. One thing you can see is we've used the medium weathering powders and the black weathering powder to mask some of the imperfections from the building process, and that's not anything to do with the kit. It's just small mistakes that were made when it was built. But all in all, it looks pretty good. The medium-sized building is a little bit wide for the platform, but as you can see there's still room in on the platform, so it works. So the next part of the process is going to be to fix this to the platform, and then over the coming weeks we will add some additional details as we expand the kind of look and the feel of the platform. But all in all, it works very well. It does stay clear of the Mach 3 and Mach 4 coaches on both the inside and outside loop, so can't really ask more than that. So the next thing for this video and for the project is going to be to wrap up the lighting. So on either end of the platform we have the lampposts. So I'm going to go and work on putting together the lamppost heads and testing the lighting and so on for those. But as far as this part of the project is done, it's pretty much done. So we'll do a quick pan around to the station here so you can see. Probably the hardest thing with scale scenes was the actual hanging platform sign. You can see there's one there, and then on the other side there is one as well. And those hanging platform signs are basically a cut paper clip that's been glued to the roof, and then we've gone and glued the sign to it. You can see that there's signs glued to the waiting room and ticket office and so on. Now there are still a couple of places like there and over here behind the module C that need some advertising, and the actual name of the station I think I'm going to put there, as well as on the lampposts themselves. So the next thing to be done is going to be the lamppost heads, but since this project is almost complete, I think we're going to go ahead and release this video tonight, and then in the upcoming Inter-City 125 video you'll see the lamppost heads with that lighting, as well as a few other detailing options, and then we'll cover the lighting in an upcoming video so you can see the results and how that was done. Alright, well, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll do a couple of shots of the HST at the station, and then we'll leave it at that. You see here we went for the three options. It's Module C, Module B, and Module A of the medium station, and it's with the Ashlar. And you can see some weathering powders to give the look and feel of the runoff from the from rain and so on the building.